I just wanted this to be a fun video. I really did. I was like, oh, let's talk about animations, because those are always fun. The worst thing that I was planning on talking about was this story that went viral of a prince that was pursuing a princess.
Once upon a time, there lived a maiden so beautiful. I do so want to love her truly.
And then at the very end of the story, the princess turns ugly.
That morning, when the prince went to see Dina, she sat with her face away from him. Dina!
But the moral is that the prince accepts her anyway.
You think I care how you look?
And you shouldn't worry so much about your looks out there, young kids. Except for by ugly, they mean black.
And we that she is not as beautiful. Her glow is gone, and her face is scarred.
So that's upsetting. So then I was like, what else can I talk about? And I figured, hey, why not check up on our favorite animated story channels like Actually Happened and My Story Animated. You know, the ones that tell completely true stories from kids that aren't made up whatsoever. But the problem is that these animated story channels have gotten too bad. They've gotten too bad. It's like almost not funny anymore. It's to the point where I think YouTube has to do something about it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there are these animated story channels where they pretend to tell stories from kids that are provably lies. And if you look at their videos, it's like the most sensational stories imaginable. My stepmother hated me, so I had to move out. I was switched at birth with another baby. I got pregnant at 15 and my boyfriend is shocked. Like, we'll get into this. So they got popular. I think they have like 3 million subscribers now, and that spurred a bunch of copycats, the main one being My Story Animated, which is another fake channel by a random Israeli app developer. I've talked about that before. Oh, one thing I left out of It Actually Happened is that in my first video about them, I found that they were like stealing the stories from Reddit, and also found like a job posting by them where they talk about how you just make up the story. It just needs to sound plausible. You can use as references the stories of real people that they've shared on various social media platforms. The story needs to be written in lively colloquial English. Oh my God. The American viewer should feel that your central characters are native English speakers. We strongly recommend writing the text in English and then translating it into Russian. And that's fine. That's just the way things are. But the other thing is that they treat these like very inappropriate and serious subjects that should be treated with care, but they're just like treating them like a soap opera.
Hi, my name is Sophie. I'm 17 years old. I'm telling you this story in order to talk to somebody, hoping that this way I will feel better. Not very long ago.
And it got to the point where I made my own parody animation channel to, I guess, bring to light how easy it is to just lie in an animation for kids, and that went far better than it should have gone. The final stunt that I pulled was that I made a website called animatedstorytitles.com where I randomly generate titles to new animated stories that don't exist based on the ones that do exist. And judging by my Twitter mentions, people are really connecting with that. And it's unfortunately gotten to the point where I can't tell the difference between a real animated story video on YouTube and one that was generated by my website. In fact, let's play a little game. This game is called, is this a fake animated story title generated by a program on Jarvis's computer, or is it a real animated story video posted by a content farm for profit? I'm just gonna say a few of these titles and then you can keep track of your guesses. I was afraid of the government, so I got a baby to save my parents. My parents left me for dead, so I became a star. And finally, I'll become a father at 14. I'm terrified. Please help me. All right, you got your guesses in? Here comes the answer. They're all fake. Oh, this is a crumbled up dollar bill. They're all real. I'm gonna need to warm you up to the fact that these channels are truly horrible. So let's start with something lighter. Like, how about my parents left me to die, but I survived and became a star.
Hi, everybody. My childhood might shock you.
His voice is so intense. It sounds like he's from a dystopian future. In my world, the androids have killed everyone. It's like future Trunks.
When you complain about how little you have, or just take pity on yourself, you must always remember that there are many people in this world that have way less.
I don't know, it's like a little belittling of like individual struggle, you know? Like, you're allowed to feel your feelings. I get that they're trying to be inspiring, but okay.
Let me start from the very beginning of my life. I do not remember it, of course, But when I found out, I was sad and happy at the same time.
They always use so many words to say like absolutely nothing. It's like in grade school when you have to like reach the minimum word count for an essay. The dog is brown. No, that won't do it. The dog. And when I tell you what color it was, I was both happy and sad at the same time. And you will be too once you hear my story. It is brown.
You see, my family was so poor that when I was born, my mother and father could not afford to pay the doctor who helped my mother give birth to me. Can you imagine?
No. No, I can't imagine.
And you know what happened next? The doctor suggested that they leave me with him as payment for his services.
What? This isn't how medical bills work. Looks like you're short on the bill, so fork over the baby.
I can only imagine what use he would have had for a newborn child.
I also don't know what this doctor would want with a baby, unless he's a doctor / black market baby merchant.
Luckily for me, my father managed to make some money and also borrowed $1 here, a dime there, and raised the amount I was worth.
Is it just me, or does the Super Mario reference seem really inappropriate? My father, he managed to scrounge every last penny to pay the evil doctor for my delivery.
I grew up as an abundantly energetic child. And to put this energy to use, my father would wake me up at dawn to practice martial arts. We practiced kung fu together, and he also taught me to do simple acrobatics, like somersaults and backflips.
All right, weird flex. Simple acrobatics like backflips, but he's so caught up in his martial arts training that he does poorly in school and fails out of the 3rd grade.
So instead, my father decided to enroll me in the drama academy at a local theater school. Sounds miraculous, doesn't it?
Not miraculous. Also, I like how they just put drama masks on like a shrine.
I still remember walking into the musty halls of that school, tightly clutching my father's hand. My fears, if there were any fears at all, disappeared as my eyes gazed upon the dozens of kids, my age and older, somersaulting and playing with swords and sticks. It looked like Disneyland to me.
So we definitely said theater school, but the depiction is of a like martial arts fighting academy.
So I very quickly let go of my father's hand and put my little palm into the hand of my new master.
Such a weird sentence. And I put my itty bitty little palm in the palm of my master. But then, the theater school turns out not to be all sunshine and rainbows.
But the magic soon wore off when a child was enrolled in this school. A contract between the parents and the administration was drawn up. According to this agreement, one of the main clauses was that the parents wouldn't have any recourse in the case that their child was injured or even died.
Yeah, that's a standard liability clause. Have you never been on a field trip? I guess they probably don't have field trips at martial arts boot camp.
There was no miracle for me, neither at school nor at home. Unemployment in my home country rose high.
Unemployment in my unnamed home country. They never name where they are in these stories, which is weird because they're already so fake they could at least pick a specific location. So then his parents inexplicably leave their undisclosed home country and go to Australia, which they do mention by name.
Had to move to Australia.
But don't take him along. I guess that's why the title of this video is My Parents Left Me to Die.
I stayed at the drama academy where we had all kinds of training.
And then while they're describing this brutal martial arts / theater education,
we had to get up at 5 a.m. and train for 15, 16 hours a day. Corporal punishment and psychological pressure was commonplace at this school.
They start dropping, like, hints about his identity.
At one of the construction sites, a fellow worker took me under his wing. His name was Jack, and I got the nickname Little Jack, which was soon shortened to Jackie.
Is this Jackie Chan?
Jackie Chan.
What? That's not Jackie Chan's origin story. Sure, Jackie Chan went to a theater school, but his parents didn't leave him for dead. They took a real famous person's origin story and then changed the details to make it more dramatic. Can they do this? There's no way that Jackie Chan signed off on this. There's another video that they did called I Was So Poor I Wore a Potato Sack Dress to School. Now All the World Knows Me, where the woman in the thumbnail is wearing a name tag that says Oprah.
My name is Oprah Winfrey.
Are they allowed to pretend to be Oprah? It's at the very least misleading because their audience doesn't know that Oprah didn't collab with actually happened. Wait, so if Oprah's here, then doesn't that mean actually happened is real? I'm tired of this channel, man. I like how they found an American person to do the voice, but the script is still obviously written by someone who doesn't speak English as a first language.
And this was when I could perfectly see what my life path was all about. I've had thousands upon thousands ups and downs in my life.
So that's actually happened, and they're the ones that started it all, and by started it all, I mean they were the first to copy Storybooth. That spurred a bunch of copycats, the main one being My Story Animated. They're famous for such iconically unrelatable videos like I'm Too Pretty and I'm the richest girl at school, and it's embarrassing. We all remember those classics.
Sometimes I just wished we could be a normal family with a normal amount of money.
They are still putting out straight garbage, like this video. I was afraid of the government, so I got a baby. When I initially found this video, it was called The Government Forced Me to Get a Baby to Save My Parents, which... I mean, I'm not sure which is worse. This video is about as bad as you would expect it to be, and I'm not gonna go through the whole thing because it's so upsetting, but I will pick out a few key elements.
My name is Jemmy, and I'm 16 years old. My story begins 2 years ago when my parents and I migrated from our country to find a better life in the U.S.
So for starters, this story is about a undocumented immigrant who moves to the United States with their family to escape some hardship from their home country, which is a very serious topic. And what's really frustrating about these channels is that they take these serious topics and they just like don't treat them with any care whatsoever.
There was no way we could afford the cost and bear with the long process of legal means of living in the United States, so we did what others had done. We became illegal immigrants. Oh, don't be so shocked. We're not bad people. I know it's wrong. I mean, it's called illegal for a reason.
I mean, you didn't hear it from me, but the forefathers of the U.S. were also not in the country legally. And that's the real tea, sis. You know, not everything that is illegal is wrong. Like, for example, in Massachusetts, it's illegal to dance to the national anthem. And that can't be right. What if I want to shake my ass to the Star Spangled Banner?
I am aware that it's not what we should have done, but this was crucial in our case. We didn't know what else to do.
It's crucial in many cases, actually. People don't usually leave their country and uproot their entire lives for kicks. I guess unless they're professional soccer players. Everything was going great. This girl who's... Does she have a name?
My name is Jemmy.
Was it Dimmy or Jimmy?
My name is Jemmy.
Jimmy? Jimmy found work as a maid, and things were going great. That is until she saw on the TV that they deport undocumented immigrants, which has always been a risk, but it scares Jimmy, and that is when she comes up with her master plan.
My parents panicked, not knowing what to do. We've been hiding for long as illegal immigrants, and we knew that we'd most likely get deported. In the rush of things...
In the rush of things? Maybe that's a reach.
An idea popped into my head that I knew could save the whole situation. The thing is, it was too extreme. I thought about it a lot, and eventually I decided to do it.
Okay.
In one of the houses where I worked, I met a boy who I ended up falling in love with. He was the son of the household. Rich, handsome, and somehow we dated.
That's convenient. She decides that Josh, the child, that is also her boyfriend, is the only person that can help her.
I knew Josh, my boyfriend, was the only person who could help me.
That's not true.
He was American and from a wealthy and powerful family.
He looks like Tuxedo Mask.
Maybe if things got more official between us, the chances of us staying in the U.S. would rise.
I don't like where this is headed.
Now, I'm not talking about marriage. I wish that would work.
It would work. What do you mean you wish it would work?
So instead, I came up with an idea that was more doable. I wanted to get pregnant.
What? So her plan is to manipulate this boy into getting her pregnant by lying to him. Why is this an animated story for kids? Even though a story like this one could be true for somebody, it's very irresponsible to just like turn it into a soap opera with none of the nuance. I was gonna say it gets worse from there, but it just stays equally bad. I've talked about these two channels before, but since I made my last video, there are like 6 other ripoff channels at least. Like this one is called Share My Story, and it's complete with identical thumbnails of the other 2 channels and equally outlandish stories. I graduated high school at 12.
Hey, I'm Mark, and I've always been really smart. That's why school was boring. It was just too easy for me.
So I just went from 0 to unrelatable in 2 seconds. Their latest video is called My Dad Thinks I'm Dead, and the thumbnail is exactly the same as Actually Happens video called My Friends Think I'm Dead. Down to the color, they all are doing the same videos. Like, I became a criminal and got caught. Steal my boyfriend. Animated. She wants to steal my boyfriend. She tried to steal my boyfriend. My mom stole my boyfriend.
I have inappropriate feelings for my mom's boyfriend. My dad's girlfriend is younger than me. My mom's tried to steal my crush.
There's so many of these channels. I just found one called Teen Stories that I didn't even know about before, and it has 100,000 subscribers. Oh my god. I searched the term "my dad is a deputy" and it comes up on 4 of these channels. How many deputies' sons are writing into these animated story channels? Anyway, all of this sleuthing led me to the worst version of animated stories I have ever seen in my life. So far, we've talked about Actually Happened, Share My Story, Teen Stories, Dory Story, and now, behold, my story. Just my story. And as someone who has their own fake story animation channel that has about as many subscribers as my story has, I don't know how they got the quality so bad. I thought I was spending as little money as possible to get the lowest quality possible, and then I watched my story videos. So let's see, on the surface it looks pretty familiar. My mom stole big money from my dad. My friend stole my dad's car. My teacher took off his pants. The topic's like, I don't know if it's getting lost in translation, but some of the topics are extremely serious and sensational, and they're next to topics that are not at all that. Like, my grandmother is a man. I was forced to get married at 13. My parents became informal? Why is that a video? I became rich really young. I have a very rare disease. And my dad has a mohawk. That's pretty crazy. What we know about all of these channels is that they're content farms. They exist just to make money. Almost all of the stories are fake. A lot of them are based in Eastern Europe, specifically Russia. But my story, it takes the cake. It takes all of the cake. All of the cake belongs to my story.
Hello, friends. My name is Mark, and I want to tell you about how my parents became informal.
Oh, so they're not even hiding the fact that this is a Russian video.
And how it all ended for our family.
What does that even mean? It's framed the same way as all of these other videos about these horrific things that happen. And for some reason, it's just like, I'm gonna tell you guys about my dad. He used to wear button-ups around the house, he wears t-shirts, and it's really freaking me out.
When I was born, we had a very normal family.
Yeah, I mean, except for the fact that you had full-grown man arms and legs as a baby.
My parents were typical employees of the system. Dad was an ordinary electrician, and mother was an accountant.
Typical employees of the system? This is like 1984. This is like so dystopian sounding.
We were like everyone else and were no different from other families.
We were like everyone else and no different than other families. That's redundant. We were like everyone else and we were like everyone else.
They dragged me to the car to go on vacation.
I don't know if it's very normal to put $100 bills in a giant jug.
I went to kindergarten and was friends with a lot of kids. I'm not sure if we were happy. I never felt sad as a child.
He responded to that like someone asked him a question. So would you say that you were happy?
I'm not sure if we were happy, but I saw that my parents came home from work each day very tired and depressed. But when I was 7 years old, something happened to my parents. I have no idea why, but they suddenly decided to change everything in our lives.
I guess by informal he means his family bought a motorhome and drove around the country.
They simply threw out their old life and bought a motorhome. We traveled to the most diverse cities of the world.
Hashtag van life.
All our acquaintances just lived with their parents in one place and lived dull lives. But we had a wonderful time and complete freedom of action. It was a bit cramped in our mobile home.
Damn. I hate being crampled. I'm trying to come up with the conflict in this video, and there isn't one except for he couldn't play computer games?
More precisely, there was not enough space for one particular thing. A normal desktop computer on which I could play all the up-to-date games.
sounds like an alien wrote this. And combined with the animation, it's just so bizarre. I would like to play all the up-to-date games for I Am Human Child. Also, he runs like he's in Attack on Titan. Literally nothing happens in this story. They just eventually give up their hashtag van life to go back to their normal lives, and that's the end. This channel is the king of taking very serious subjects and just being completely inappropriate. Like, it's so obvious that the stories are fake because they're so disrespectful to who is telling the story.
Hello, my name is Alice, and this is my amazing story about never giving up. I grew up in an average family. Me, mom, dad, and 2 of my siblings weren't remarkable in any way, but we were still happy and got along with each other. That is, until my father died.
It's just so inappropriate. It's so serious. This video is called I Became a Millionaire at 17, and in case you weren't sure that this takes place in Russia, they are.
Looking back, I am still amazed at how much money I managed to make. It was around 40,000 rubles a month.
40,000 rubles. About $630 a month. That's pretty good. But wait, that makes the millionaire accomplishment seem a little less impressive. The video, My Grandmother is a Man, which is unfortunately a video that has been duplicated across a number of these channels, seems like it's going to be way more offensive than it is, but it turns out to be like a Mrs. Doubtfire situation. But once again, because they frame the most mundane situations as like these ridiculous revelations, it does come off pretty offensive.
Hi, my name is Nicole, and now I want to tell you about the terrible secret kept by my grandmother.
It's not a ghost story.
Grandmother began to cut firewood with a chainsaw. I'd never seen that before.
The main reason that I wanted to show you this video is because there's a point where the grandmother injures herself with a chainsaw and just keeps chopping wood.
Then suddenly the chain broke and struck her leg with all of its might. Blood gushed and poured out under her skirt for a minute, but she didn't seem upset and did not utter a word, did not even a groan. Everything was the same as usual, but this was only the beginning of my discoveries.
So that's not very believable at all. And the pinned comment on this video is, "Are you sure your grandmother's not a man?" After watching this video a few times, I'm pretty sure that they only avoided being super offensive by being completely incoherent. So I've kind of held back on some of the worst of the worst in terms of video topics. But one thing that is like completely inappropriate that all of these channels are talking about is teen pregnancy. You know, you saw it in the I Was Afraid of the Government video, but there are so many of these videos and I just don't understand why. And it would be one thing if they were actually sharing someone's experience and giving like a nuanced view of the struggles that are associated with teen pregnancy, but it's treated like a soap opera on channels that are clearly meant for kids. And it's been really hard actually for me to talk about some of these videos because I wasn't sure like how to even do it. But if you search I Got Pregnant animated story, oh my god, I'm discovering new channels of these I didn't even know existed. You can watch the clear race to the bottom that has happened with these videos with this one specific video topic. I got pregnant at 16, 15, 13, and then my story, this channel that we just talked about, has a video called I Got Pregnant at 12. Like, how is that okay? And to make matters worse, they don't treat the topic with the seriousness that it requires, especially when you're talking to kids. They treat it like a romance novel.
Hello, my name is Mary, and I'm 19. 7 years ago, a shocking story happened to me, and it changed my life forever. Almost 10 years ago, a tourist club called Atlas was founded in the neighboring town. After spending a week there, me, my family, and about 20 other people went out to conquer another mountaintop.
All right, so just to set the stage, the story starts out completely absurd. She's 19, she's saying that 7 years ago, her life changed, so when she was 12, which is like the title, How I Got Pregnant at 12, and then they jump back to 10 years ago, when she was 9, and is for some reason hiking a mountaintop?
On the 6th day of camping, a terrible storm broke out, and it was soon followed by an avalanche.
An avalanche? This is not a place for 9-year-olds.
The first wave of snow separated me from my parents and knocked me off my feet.
I'm sorry. I know it's a fake story. And I know that I should be serious about this. But she has like a Russian southern accent. Knock me off my feet.
Someone else's hand found me and pulled me up.
Yeah, somebody found me and pulled me up.
It was Carter who pulled me out of that snowbank.
A 9-year-old boy pulled you out of an avalanche? What?
We barely made it to a tree and clung to each other. I looked into his eyes.
Don't do this.
And that's when I felt the first affection and chemistry between us.
Stop.
2 years later, I don't know if it was a coincidence or fate, but I heard a familiar voice. It was him, Carter. We were so happy to see each other. I hugged him tight, and he kissed my neck.
They're 12. What?
Carter changed a lot, and it definitely was for the better. It's been only 2 years, and he already looked like a man.
Why did you make this video? I can't keep going, but it gets worse.
My mom was crying, and I just sat there feeling completely empty. Well, aside from my baby.
What is happening? There's so many of these videos. I haven't even talked about half the topics. There has to be some sort of community guideline that these videos are breaking. And these channels are only multiplying because the ones at the top keep getting more popular. Not to mention, actually, Happen to My Story Animated have both been featured on the trending page a lot. Kids are watching these videos. 100%. Read any of the comments. These stories are only about 12 to 16-year-olds and their parents. These aren't for adults, and they're animated. I can't believe this isn't a bigger deal to people, because people protested The Simpsons because Bart talked back to kids. Most of these videos have more objectionable content than anything that's animated on television right now. Also, cartoons don't pretend to be real. But like, to me, it's just like this lazy sensationalism that they know it's gonna get clicks and they can make a quick buck off of it, and they're making up the stories, and I don't even know if they're being intellectually honest when they say that, like, oh, we want to like make the world a better place or whatever by sharing these stories, because they don't seem real, and if they are, then it's extremely negligent. Like, you can't just say anything and hide behind the guise that you're telling a kid's story. You have to have some responsibility. I'm sorry, this turned into a rant. I didn't want to end on a sour note, but I don't know how to end. Jarvis died. Thanks to Aditayo Alexander Oluwaseyi Oladele Jr. for your girlfriend sending me a message on Twitter. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. Also, I disagree. High School Musical 2 is the best movie of all time. It's not even close. If you want me to butcher your name, send me a message on Instagram, just to keep things simple. Just send me a message on Instagram. Also, thanks to everybody who participated in my survey that I posted about last week on social media. The shout out for that will be happening in the next video because I emailed the winner and they haven't gotten back to me yet. But be sure to follow me because I want to do more stuff like that in the future. I've got to go work on my next video, which is about The Bachelorette, which is a marriage game show that probably shouldn't exist. All right, bye.